Good morning, Data Dave.
Good morning. How are you? Forgive my attire, but we're shivering in the UK.
You look like you're about to go and hunt wildebeest or something.
Elk.
You might have to. Elk, yes. How has a week of now being a data analyst
Well,
gone?
do you know what? It's actually gone quite well, surprisingly well. So using your excellent video, or the excellent video that we filmed together, I was able, like some miracle, to make a call to an API, create a JSON file, convert it to a CSV, and then what I did is sort of took a slight diversion from the Excel stuff. So I did do the Excel stuff as well, but I actually tried uploading the Excel into ChatGPT, and actually found that it was able to create some sort of pretty interesting things. So what I thought is I would kind of show you what I did.
Cool. So when we previously tried the JSON, but that was too big, but the Excel was shorter, so it was okay. Yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, that's it. I'm a little bit excited.
Yeah, well, and so I'm hoping I can replicate what I managed to do, but I have one prepared earlier, if not. So
of course. Okay, let's do live demo time then.
Okay, so let me share my screen.
Actually, see. So what have you done now? You've selected the CSV.
So I could take you through the torturous process of me showing you how to create the CSV again, but basically this is, as of 10 minutes ago, the data from the Thames Water monitoring, the Thames Water sewage map website and their API. So this is pretty up to date. So start off with we start off by just getting it to analyze the CSV file.
So this is in the same format that roughly what we did last time. So it's got like the CSV names, the X and Y positions.
Exactly the same.
Discharge, that stuff.
So obviously it then starts by saying, forgive my typos. So basically it's, I guess ChatGPT is in familiarizing itself more with the data based on my input.
Yeah.
Which is, again, it's great from a non-practitioner's point of view, is it actually tells you what it needs to know in order to kind of get go forward.
I think sometimes also, like, it doesn't I find sometimes just uploading the same file again helps. Like sometimes it does just get a little bit off key.
Yeah. But again, it's all kind of learning in terms of how you use this tool. So, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. It's kind of worth worth definitely doing.
But like you said, at least it gives you some feedback as to, like, it's not just going, it's broke, you can't do anything. It's basically saying to you, like, look, there's some inconsistency in the data. Therefore, you need to potentially check that out.
Yeah. I'm not as fast at you as typing, so it's a really one thing I'd like to. It's a really nice. How it kind of gives you feedback and keeps you up to date with what it's doing, I think is incredibly beautiful. Like just this prompt where it's sort of like, shows you it's doing something.
Yeah. And interestingly, like, it ran the first loop the first time and then obviously started again. I imagine, because basically when it is analyzing, what it's actually doing is like writing code behind the scenes to execute.
Absolutely.
So I think it basically was doing that and then ran again to basically execute the query that you then followed it with the top 5.
Absolutely. I mean, and so there, like, what we then get is a number, the top 5 coming back. So if I think about how, if we had gone down the Excel route like you showed us, that we would have got to this answer. But the fact that I can literally upload a spreadsheet to it and then come back, get this sort of list, I think is quite extraordinary. And, okay, there was a bit of toing and froing, but, we've actually done that pretty quickly. And, what's really interesting is from this information in the actual Thames Water data, it gives you in hours. And what ChatGPT has done is sort of turn that into something slightly more useful, or a lot more useful, by it's already translated those hours into days. So then we can ask for,
See, I would, as you type this next to it, I would go to a counter thing to this, though, that I think, though that is good that it's now saying 12 days and 22.5 hours, but I think this is where we start to see the inherent bias that gets built into these systems on subconsciously, because now you're kind of like, what is a day to somebody? Like, because it's work day, is it a 12-hour day you're awake 16 hours, is it a 24-hour period? Like, it's in my head when I go, it's discharges for 12 days, that to me is less impactful than the hours. And again, neither is right or wrong, it's personal preference. But I think it just kind of further kind of shows the preferential, new word, formatting of data.
But if we were to ask it to show us in hours, it would do that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
So now I'm hoping it will draw a nice pie chart. But again, this is all like, we haven't touched Excel at all.
No, and I do wonder, like, I get it, and from the accessibility point of view, I believe under the hood now, it's having to reanalyze again. So it's basically, so you know, there is an element of the time bit, but like it's still producing amazing results. I do wonder and it'd be intriguing to see actually. Once this has kind of done its thing, you could then say, now can you give me the Excel formula to do this? If you wanted it in a format that is more predictable. But also, I wonder, not yet. Ooh, pretty. I wonder if eventually you get to a point where you'll be able to say, generate me the Excel file with the formula in.
Yeah. I mean, the possibilities are kind of endless, aren't they? But you know, if I look at that, I'm like, okay, well, that's just presentation ready. I mean, I can ask it to change colors and things like that, and it can kind of do it. But you know, that is information that, you know, up until we started doing this was pretty inaccessible because, you know, unless you
that's like 10 grand from like Accenture or something like that.
Well, exactly. I mean, so now I'm going to try something which I hope will work, which is so I'm just going to start with a fairly basic thing. Now, when we went through the data, what you realize is the actual location of the CSOs is it uses the Ordnance Survey location, which is not the same as a sort of longitude latitude.
No, it's like a north and east westerly positioning or something.
Yeah, exactly. So let me try, if I link to the map. So it created a map.
Wow.
And it first couple of times it couldn't put the locations on. And then it had a moment of realization about the location stuff. And it came back and it said, oh, I think this is in the based on the Ordnance Survey location, whatever format. It is, format. So it converted it, and then we got this map, and it was like
so cool. So what is that file that it created for you then? Like a HTML thing? Or
it's an HTML, yeah.
So it's rendered the code of the map.
It's rendered the code of the map. And then it sort of overlaid this on top, because I was like, well, this is absolutely brilliant because it puts the power of this information into people's hands.
Well, also, like I'm assuming when you share it back and we look at the code, I can kind of imagine how it probably added it. You could then take that code, copy that in to another ChatGPT chat, and say, add these 10 other places, right? For example. And then it understands it understands the concept of that HTML and would edit the HTML. You're then basically writing code without writing any code.
It's amazing what, just the possibilities become kind of endless in all of this sort of stuff. But it sort of feels like it's okay. There's a few like rough edges to it, but we're so close to having something where you can start interrogating data like as a complete novice of, you don't need to know much other than the questions to ask. So
yes,
I guess it's interesting on the Thames Water stuff, because you do need to understand what the information is trying to tell you. But once you know the questions to ask, then, having the ability to kind of use this as an interface to it, I think it's just kind of game changing.
Yeah, I guess the one, to play devil's advocate a bit, is the knowledge, not even knowledge, but the awareness to challenge the assumptions it makes. Because it will get it wrong sometimes. It's not like in Excel, in the respect of like Excel is just adding numbers together.
Yeah, no,
it is interpreting language, but then it is executing code. And I think it'll get better and better, and it will get more visible as people's competence and understanding what's happening. I think you're right. The UI is very good and is very nicely presented. I think they hide a lot of stuff to not confuse people. If you use some of the other ones, like Claude, it shows you the code that's being written to then execute. And I think if you don't know what's going on, that's probably a bit too much, whereas just a little thing that says analyzing is not scary. And then as people's maturity with the product and with the technologies kind of goes, then it will show you the code, and then maybe give you the option to edit the code or just to use a prompt to customize the code that was done.
I think I agree, but it is actually, but it's great how it's sort of pushing the technology into like data is so important. So I was at a meeting yesterday of some other people in Windsor who want to test water, and they want to campaign, they want to do all of these things, and I was like, well, data's the foundation for this. So by collecting data, you can then be confident in terms of, what you're able to kind of do with that data, and, build stories around the data. But it is like
foundational trust.
Yeah. So I think this is it's all really, really kind of happening. It's ChatGPT, like 3 months ago, couldn't do what we've just shown you, but now it can do. So, it'd be amazing to see what happens in 3 months' time.
Well, and there's already rumors and conversation around ChatGPT 5 potentially being something that releases this year. Sam Altman was seen kind of interviewing with Bill Gates and some stuff with the Y Combinator kind of startup, saying you need to stop building stuff for what's coming, and we're probably going to fix all of these particular issues. So it definitely makes you think what happens as this gets further and further. And I think for a lot it's scary, because it's like you just don't know what you don't know. But I think the reality is, if you're a domain expert or you have a desire, a passion around a particular thing, it just reduces the technological barrier. You can produce things like them graphs and the insights, and potentially then turn them into images or into stories or into whatever. And I think that's only good. As it all kind of uncovers,
Yeah, and I think it's great to kind of be participating in that evolutionary process and sort of seeing it kind of happening before our eyes. So, and I think I said that we managed to we created a graph, a pie chart, didn't we? And we I put that out on Twitter. It got sort of thousands of views, and then someone else saw it and turned it into something else, which we thought wasn't quite as good. But that then got picked up by a national newspaper. So all of this stuff, like there is a link between kind of turning this data into assets which people can kind of absorb better. And I think it's great, because this is really democratizing access to data in a way that wasn't possible. before.
Completely, yeah. The accessibility bit of it is the key, and I think also there's a lot of people who, need to. There's a lot more technologists who have to make more videos, like the thing we did, to show the accessibility and show the right, not necessarily the right prompts, but just to in some ways maybe reset the mentality that I can't do this because it's tech. Like these things are now a lot more possible.
So you've been working on something as well, which is well, almost describe it as a piece of art, living art on.
It definitely, do you know what? It has become, for something that was meant to be a quick little tool, it's become quite an ephemeral thing for me. But yes, no, this is so at COP26, COP28. I spoke a lot about and I guess all the stuff from a humanity point of view that we're saying is that, of course, climate change is bad and we want to do stuff, but I'm just personally just fed up of the fear mongering of it all. Like, yeah, there's plastic in the ocean, there's pollutants, there's this and there's that. Making me feel bad about it, for me personally anyway, is not going to make me do something. I am much more motivated by saying, if we do this, then we can have an inspirational, beneficial kind of future. So I thought we could build a nice little tool which shows the dystopian pros and cons of the future. So this is called City 2047, which is in 8,401 days. And what I can do on here is I can basically pick a city. There's about 100 cities in there at the moment. But if your city's not there, you can just click city not found and send an email, and we'll add it. And it basically just has this slider, and it's got a picture. You can slide. It's got a picture of the fear. So this is what the media is kind of saying London's going to be like if we don't embrace climate action. And I'm saying, like, what if we instead promoted, this is what London could be like if we did do climate action and we focused on renewable energy. And basically I've done this for all these different cities. So here's New York, and it's the same type of thing. Again, not rocket science, but just making it a lot more palatable as a I think just to show people that, look, if I look at these pictures, if I live in New York and I'm seeing that, I'm like, oh, if I look in New York and I see that, I'm like, amazing. Like, how do I get solar on my roof? How do I plant some trees on my, balcony? Much more prefer that inspirational sales pitch of climate action.
But it's a really, I like, because I tend to catastrophize things. So I'm like, walk around thinking the sky's going to fall down on our head, and I forget that actually, there is a lot of good that is being done at the moment, which could push us to a much greener future. And I think it's really worth reminding ourselves. So I like the tool because it kind of was like, okay, it is a kind of almost call to action around the whole thing. But as you say, you can kind of, it helps in terms of taking that real positive spin, and I was saying there's a lady who's written a book called Hannah Ritchie, which is basically like, okay, you can say everything's doomed, or you can look at it in another way and say, well, actually the impact of reducing emissions is having it is having an impact, or countries are following green agenda, all of the things are happening, so things could be so much worse than they actually are at the moment. So I like it because it kind of gives you, as you say, that sort of inspiration rather than the fear. And for someone like me, which does tend to catastrophize things, it's great to have that reminder.